All right, everyone. So in this lesson, I'm going to be talking about consistency with Facebook ads. And I wanted to add this at the end of the lesson just so that, if you do get to the point where you're very profitable, that's great, but you should be thinking about consistency because when something works, it doesn't last forever, and you need to be thinking about the next thing and how you're going to keep these results and generate future results. And so that's the idea with this lesson. So let's get right into it. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over my pillars of consistency. So these are essentially the foundational things that you need in order to stay consistent with Facebook ads. And so I'm going to give you a quick overview right now of the 5 things, and then I'm going to go and dive more in depth for each one. So number 1 is good ad account structure. Number 2 is always testing new creatives. Number 3 is regularly testing new audiences. Number 4 is playing to the biases of the Facebook algorithm. And number 5 is good customer experience. So let's dive more into each one. So number 1 is good ad account structure. So I've explained this in previous lessons and just the lesson before. At the end of the last lesson, I showed you how the ad account structure looks like with a diagram, right? And essentially this is just sandbox campaigns so that you can continuously test without disrupting your scaling campaigns, right? And so that's why sandbox campaigns are useful, is you can keep testing things on the side without messing with your real campaigns, essentially. And so the other part of this is well-structured scaling campaigns, right? And I talked about this all in the last video. And so this is the first pillar of consistency, is having good ad account structure, like not having a bunch of overlap, not having like a ton of different campaigns and like constantly creating new ones and stuff. You want to have good ad account structure and focus on cycling ads rather than just constantly like creating new ad sets. This is a big change with like CBO and the way that Facebook ads ad account structure works. Now, number 2 is always testing creatives. This is crucial in order to stay consistent since ads get copied and exhausted really fast, right? Like if you come up with a good ad, people are going to copy it. Even if they don't like just steal it, they're going to copy like the idea of your ad, like the structure of your ad that made your ad so successful. And so you always need to come up with new creatives and always keep testing new things. Original content works best. I've mentioned this before, so reinvest into content. There's a whole lesson about that. By constantly testing creatives in your sandbox campaign, you'll always have something to cycle in when performance dips, right? So that helps a lot with consistency. If your campaigns start performing really poorly, then you can just cycle something in from your sandbox campaign, and that might just reset the performance, right? And so this is very key to stay consistent. Test new angles for your product, new pain points that it solves. I talked about this in the winning ad formulas lesson. Use different models, different segments within your target market. Like for example, age, gender, ethnicity, right? Like if your target market is really broad and you're targeting like all the way from 18 years old to 50 years old, then you need ads with different models, right? Because you can't just have one model that will resonate with all of your entire target market, right? So you need to use different models for different ads, and this will let you scale more. And this will help you stay consistent. And then new formats. I talked about this in the winning ad formulas lesson as well, but new formats helps a lot. Like for example, if you're only doing square videos, then you should start getting some vertical videos in there, right? You want to have multiple formats because Facebook thrives off variation inside of its ad sets and campaigns. Now, number 3 is regularly testing audiences. If you're scaling aggressively, you might exhaust your audiences quick and then performance starts to decline, right? And so what you want to do in this case is you want to test new interests in your audience sandbox campaign and replace the top interests, right? And what this does is not only will this maybe fix your top interest campaign and make it profitable again, it'll also collect new data from different audiences, right? So you're collecting data from a new audience, a different interest group. So this will update your lookalike audience data essentially. Like this will change your pixel data over time, which will update your lookalike audiences over time. And so this kind of just refreshes your audiences over time. And so this is a good way to stay consistent, is by regularly testing audiences as well as creatives. Now, number 4 is good customer service, and this is really, really important. Facebook is clamping down on bad merchants selling on their platform. And their priority is customer experience, and they don't need you. I put this in bold because it's really true. And I see people complain all the time, like, if I'm like Facebook doesn't even take care of me, and I spend a lot of money on here. They don't need you at all. Like they have enough people like literally handing them money, asking for more visibility on Facebook, right? And so they don't need you. What they need is the customers, because if the customers leave, then no one's going to want to advertise there anymore, right? They need the customers first, and then they take money. And so the algorithm is very smart, and it takes in multiple factors to judge this, right? So for example, whether or not you respond to customer inquiries on Facebook. If you don't respond to customer inquiries on Facebook, that's not gonna do any good for your ads performance. Another example is the surveys, right? This is even more important. Facebook sends surveys to customer after their purchase. So you can set the delivery time. If you go to the customer's feedback page, I'll put a link in the description of this video. You can go to the customer feedback page, and you can set the delivery time for your product. So by default, I think it's 4 weeks. You want to change that to 8 weeks. And then what's going to happen is after 8 weeks, once they purchase, so once once they purchase, it's going to set off the purchase event on the Facebook pixel on your website, right? So that's how Facebook knows that that person bought from you. And so it's going to wait 8 weeks or whatever you set the delivery time to, and then it's going to send them a survey asking about their experience. And if the customer leaves bad feedback, and if most of your customers leave bad feedback, Facebook is not going to let you advertise anymore. And so this is really important. And so you need to offer good customer service. You need to respond to all inquiries and offer fast shipping. This is really important. Otherwise, once you start getting a lot of these surveys sent out to your customers and Facebook sees that you're not taking care of your customers, they're going to ban you from advertising. And so you can learn more about this. I'm going to have some links in the description about this. And so the key action steps to do this, to prevent this from happening, right, is number one, you want to properly set up customer relation management. So for example, Zendesk, right? Zendesk is a great way to handle all your customer service. And I talk about this in the store automation and operations module. So the last module in the course, I talk about this, how to set up your customer service team and use Zendesk to keep everything organized. You want to hire VAs to quickly handle inquiries. You want to strive to offer lower shipping times, right? So if you're using AliExpress, carefully vet which suppliers you're using, and you want to switch to an agent as soon as possible, right? Or third-party fulfillment. And once again, this is covered in the store automation and operation module. And so these are the two most important things here, right? You need to really, you need to answer all customer inquiries as soon as possible, within 24 hours. And then you need to lower your shipping times. And the way to do this is to switch to an agent or to use third-party fulfillment and to stock inventory in a warehouse. And so this is really important if you want to last with Facebook ads. And the third one is setting realistic expectations for customers and informing them, right? So, you can list your shipping times on the website, have email sequences that lets them know after they order, hey, this is where you can track your order. If it's not working right now, here's what you should do. Things like that, right? Inform them, and this is going to avoid some frustrations that might lead them to leaving bad feedback once they get this survey by Facebook. Now, the fifth pillar of consistency is playing to the biases of the Facebook algorithm. And so essentially this is understanding how Facebook works, how the Facebook ads algorithm works, and then acting based on that, right? So we know that that the Facebook ads auction is based on relevance and estimated action rates, and that's what helps you lower your ad costs. And so you need to test creatives to do that. That's part of what it means to play by the biases. But you can also do this in other ways. So for example, you can engage with customers in the comments, because we know that engagement gets you a lot of total value in the auction, right? And so you want to get engagement without having to bait it. You don't want to bait engagement in your ad text, but you can engage with customers and be funny, and this will get you a lot more engagement, right? And so by doing this, you'll get a lot more engagement, and you'll have to spend less in the auction to win. Facebook likes engagement, so get them a lot of engagement. Use GIFs in your replies, right? Read the Facebook ad policies, follow what Facebook wants you to do, and they will reward you. If you look at the top advertisers on Facebook, they do exactly what Facebook wants them to do. And so just follow what Facebook wants you to do, read the Facebook's recommendations and follow that, and usually it'll work really well. One more thing is Facebook wants users to be happy on the platform, and it uses AI to detect what's in your content. Facebook by default prefers happy content. And so real people with happy emotions is the type of content that Facebook loves. And so this is the type of content that does best. And so that's why influencer demos, if you go back to the winning ad formulas lesson, I talked about influencer demos and influencer stories. This is why it works really well. It's basically it's content that Facebook likes showing. It's the type of content that Facebook was meant to have in the first place. It's just real people, it's not like a big ad. It's just a real person trying your product, smiling, that fits in, and that's the type of content that Facebook loves. And so this is an example of playing to the biases of Facebook algorithm as well. All right, everyone, so that is it for this lesson about consistency with Facebook ads. This was just a quick lesson. I wanted to introduce you to what the pillars of consistency are, in my opinion, the main thing that you need to do if you want to stay consistent just selling the same product for a long period of time. And so I hope you enjoyed it, and I think that's also the end of the Facebook Ads Blueprint 2.0 module. And so I hope you got a lot of value out of it. I hope it was easier to follow than the Facebook Ads Blueprint 1.0 module. And on that note, thank you for watching this module, and I'll see you in the next one, which is the Case Study 2.0 about the Cloud Cushion Store.